Well, hey there, my friends, and welcome back again. Welcome back to another fantastic video from Carpo's Corner. Today I'm coming at you from the old house again. As I've been working here, we just finished the roof, my friend and I. Thank you, Kevin. You're a godsend. And having one true friend in this world is wonderful, but having a few is even better. My two closest friends besides my wife, which are Scott and Kevin. Scoey's the one that makes the hats, rag hats, and he's given me and my family several of them that he put a lot of time and love into. And my buddy Kevin just came over and helped me roof the whole place and didn't want a dime. Naturally, I want to repay both of these guys because I care, but the point being, that's what community is about. Knowing people that you want to help and that you want them to help you when you need help, but really, when you have a friend, you don't even want them to help sometimes. Not because you don't need the help, but because you don't want to burden them, because you truly care about them, because a real friend doesn't want to burden another person. So, anyhow, the point of this is about community and how important it is to have people that we give a shit about in this world. And let's just say that what I've observed in my lifetime is how the closeness of community can hold people together during times of crisis. When there's a major disaster, people go to help their neighbors. When there's any type of crisis, whether it be a natural or man-made disaster, people are there to help. And it's because people care. They put their own lives at risk to help strangers, because that is what human nature is about. Meanwhile, you have the people who, let's just say, wouldn't help a drowning child if their suit might get damaged. This is an actual thought experiment. Somebody told me about that. I heard about this on a podcast. I haven't looked it up, but it was in some, famous discussion between wealthy people where there's this actual thought experiment of if a child was drowning, and would you jump in a pond and ruin an expensive suit to save him, or would it be better to not save the drowning child and then instead take that suit, take it to auction, and then use the money to give to a charity, which would help many children? You see what I'm saying? There are people in society who think this way and actually consider thoughts like this. It's like the trolley experiment on steroids, but instead of sacrificing one to save five, you are sacrificing one so you can give a little bit of a few crumbs, right? Like, we live in an absurd society where the mentality of some people is money matters more than lives, more than people, all right? And I have to get over this as a kind of a prerequisite to the discussion I wanted to have today, which was about the imminent collapse of, Western society. And I say Western society because as the whole world falls apart, there are still places that will do fine. A lot of places do import goods because they're available, but they still milk their own cows, right? They still have their own grain. Now, these places will all still be affected by changing climates, by migration. I mean, the thing is, we are completely in denial about the imminent collapse of our society. And when you bring it up, people find it very depressing. So I'm going to try not to get into the depressing parts. I'm not here to say that we're all doomed tomorrow. It's more of a very slow decline, and something I've been focusing on a lot lately. And I haven't uploaded the videos where I've talked about this because I've been out at my new place, and I don't have internet out there, so I can't upload. And it's beautiful because I make all these videos, but I really, in the end, just don't realize it's not really worth sharing, and really get to think about what I want to share. But also, I have time on my computer to finally get out my free editing program, my DaVinci Resolve, and start making some more edited videos. And those will be on my Homestead channel, and that's where I'm going to share tips that I'm learning as I go about how to grow food, raise chickens. Basically, my dream my whole life has been to escape from the city and the suburbs, because I believe there's an imminent collapse coming of society, which will be slow going, but one event could really trigger a very hasty retreat from normalcy for us, let's say. Even a simple earthquake here in the Pacific Northwest, which we are overdue for, like a 9-pointer could devastate all the bridges, all the local infrastructure. North Portland, the ports out there are completely, I guess it would be the northwest Portland, way up there by the West Hills, but there's the ports up there in North Portland. They're all in liquefaction zones. This is where when a certain resonance is reached in an earthquake, it turns the ground to liquid. I'm sure you've all seen videos by now of things just sinking into the ground during an earthquake. But all of the gas lines, all of these, ports are on these zones, as well as the airport here. So what I'm saying is just even a simple regional disaster like this could leave you wanting for water, for electricity, for a long period of time. So my dream has always been just to get a piece of land, get the fuck away from the city before I have to, before I'm forced to evacuate. So we got a house with 3 acres, some forest land and a field, and it's got its own well, which does run on electricity, mind you, but I have noticed all the grounds there, the utility lines are all underground, because it's, phone almost fell over. It's out in the country enough to where it's, kind of in its own zone. Anyway, it's a beautiful place, and I want to say that, like, one of the things I've always said I wanted to do before, things get bad is, you want to get rid of all debt, right? So taking on a new place like this, it's a big burden, because if we can't afford to pay for it, that could be a problem. However, getting out of debt isn't everything. If something big enough were to happen, at least I'd be stuck there on a piece of land after everything falls apart, right? So the worst case scenario, all the power goes out, and hey, I don't have to pay mortgage anymore either, right? But I expect more of a gradual decline, which you've seen through grocery prices and everything else. Now, over my lifetime alone, my population has doubled, and that blows my mind. Doubled the human population since I was a kid. And since the 1800s, it's like, it's absolutely ridiculous how fast humans have grown, and it was all because of oil and the Industrial Revolution. And we have this illusion that we can continue to go forward forever the same without suffering any real repercussions. But we're already seeing population growth slow because of this. And basically people are starting to realize that even though we have the potential for a utopia, that anyway, for the things we've created in this world, we have the technology to create facilities to grow food, to produce medicines, to make sure everybody in the world is taken care of. And we can make sure that everyone is taken care of. But the way that we have things set up is we will dump loads of food in order to protect somebody's bottom line, their crops. During COVID, we didn't have the right packaging for meat and dairy, so we just dumped it, threw it away, burned it. Farmers have been paid to dump their crops for decades, and this could be fixed by just having better logistics, by being more focused on the people, but that's not what we do. You see, your government doesn't give a shit about you. They control you. They control all of us. And people have been saying this for a very long time, but they're always considered conspiracy theorists or alarmists. And I just feel like at some point people are going to have to wake up to the reality. This isn't something, I mean, it's always fascinating to me when people just discover this, that holy shit, we've been lied to this whole time. When it's something for 30 years I've been fascinated with, but after the first 15, after the first even 5 years of trying to share this shit with people, I just gave up. My early YouTube channel was about prepping for the unknown. I talked about just about everything from food to water and, survival gear. The only thing I never talked about was the one thing I never talk about online, because I always feared that the algorithm would eventually, and AI would eventually get to the point where it could find the people who are most likely to talk about firearms. And so I just never talked about them. But believe me, my dad took me out. I'm a good shot. I know what I'm doing with a firearm. And it's not something that you need to brag about, but it's something that you should be able to handle, People seem to think that if you need help, the government's always there to protect you. And the truth is, cops are called after something happens, okay? We know this. And half the time they show up late and don't do anything at all. No offense to any police out there. I know a lot of cops are doing their best with what they're given and their circumstances, but unfortunately there's so much corruption within, police departments. There are at least, a half dozen gangs, or probably more, police gangs in LA. When people are like, oh, there's Bloods and Crips, and there's a whole bunch of different, street gangs. They're like, yeah, there's more than that of cop gangs. I mean, not more than street gangs, but more than you would think. I think there's like a dozen different ones that I've read about. One's called the Reapers, I think, and they've got tattoos of skulls with helmets and machine guns and knives and shit like this. It's like, whoa, but this has been going on for like a couple decades now, probably more. It's been exposed, it's well known, and so we know we have police gangs that in order to get into, you have to kill somebody. And I thought, it was kind of a moment for me when I realized this is how it happens. This is how the decline of a nation happens, when you allow authorities to abuse the law and to basically tread over other people's rights in order to benefit themselves. It's something that I've always seen as, completely wrong. But unfortunately, it's not the guys with the guns you should worry about. It's the guys behind the scenes. It's the hedge funds that are buying up all these companies. In fact, I heard somebody point out that they're trying to buy out like all these HVAC companies through California. Like these hedge funds, what they do is they move in, buy small companies out, and then they either profit or run them into the ground, one or the other, and dominate an industry. This is how they lobby. Like if there's too much competition in an industry, for example, in California, the hair and nail salons, it's a big business, so obviously they're going to have competition. Well, the hairdresser, they wanted to stop, I don't know if it was the hairdressers union or what, but they wanted to stop people from starting their own businesses without, so they made it harder by lobbying Congress to force them to have more expensive licenses, right? So in other words, companies create regulations that they can jump through easily because they're huge corporations. But it's like this hurdle, like $1,000 or $10,000 licensing fee that makes it hard for a company. A guy like me to start a certain business, like I can't just start selling shit, from my property. I have to get licensing. I have to get somebody to check out, make sure the property is okay to sell things off of. I have to make sure that the products are safe. And some of these things are actually very important because regulations help us, but they are also abused by these companies. And then once they get the regulations where it's difficult for these small companies to keep up, they buy them out. So we're living in a time of extreme lobbying profit right now, and it's getting out of hand. But all that said, this is only the financial part of it all. You going to the grocery store and paying twice as much as 5 years ago, that might not be a big deal to some people, but it seems like most people who actually live check to check, it's very complicated, very difficult for them. But also, you don't see wage doubling. So basically, your money, when you go to the grocery store, is worth half as much as it was 5 years ago. And we just eat it because we have no choice. So it is huge, the financial impact. But the financial impact is what creates the social upheaval. The social upheaval is the part you have to look out for. And that's where we're at now. And we've allowed government to divide the people between left and right and convinced each other that, liberals are monsters or conservatives are all the enemy. All it does is make people dig in their heels deeper, and nobody has a conversation about anything. They just want to be right. And there's that old line from a song, right? Nobody's right when everybody's wrong. All the anti-war songs from the 60s and 70s, they had it figured out. They saw these things because back then, college-age kids and young adults were out fighting for what they believed. Getting mowed down at Kent State University, right? People protesting the Vietnam War because they saw soldiers coming back broken after killing innocent people out there because we didn't know how to fight guerrilla warfare. And if you were to talk about that, you were considered anti-American. And today it's the same way. If you're to call out the bullshit going on in the U.S. government, you're considered non-patriotic by some. Well, fuck those people. Anybody who thinks that it's non-patriotic to call out corruption in this country, you don't know what being a patriot is. This country was founded on the principles of getting rid of abuse and corruption. Sure, there have been corrupt people in this country from the beginning, but we've always tried to root them out. We've been warned against everything that we're facing right now in the U.S. We've been warned against despotism, against creating enemies out of citizens, against fear-mongering, against the military in U.S. streets, and all these things have been overlooked and glossed over because, well, we're so desperate right now. And this is why I think that we're in the early stages of a complete decline in this country. You can't come back from these things. Normalcy has changed. It's not going to return to the way it ever was. So once we figure this out, then we can move forward and figure out how to do so together and maybe point the finger in the right direction. But I don't think that's going to stop collapse. The thing is, all of this, it's not Trump's fault, right? It's a deeper systemic corruption. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'll talk to you on the flip side. And you do well now. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. Don't let the fact that we're in decline, become a negative thing. It's just part of life. It's just it's the part of the cycle of life. And we should be grateful to know we're living through this time. Grateful that we have all these goods and services that we can utilize at the moment, because they might not always be here. So, yeah, my kid's texting me, so I gotta go. Guess I'll see you next time. Make sure you take her easy out there, alright? Peace out.